Well, welcome into the podcast in the Cameron University Studio podcast studios here, live from Cameron University on the Oklahoma Sports Network, and the podcast, which we call ourselves The Point After. And welcome into episode 15. So, really kind of launching this during the latter part of last year with baseball and kind of going into the summer and really kind of looking with spring football. And then, of course, in the entire football season. And we can't wait to continue because we'll continue this podcast and go through basketball. But here it is, week 10, final week of the regular season of football. And we're going to have to bring in our analyst again, Chris Evans from the Guthrie News Page. And he is my guru of all numbers. And because I think it was really to your disadvantage that you told me that you really geek out on this. And I said, okay, I'm going to use that to my advantage, because if you like the numbers, we like talking numbers. And unless you're a coach, and I was talking to a couple that attend our church, and he said, well, my son's into all this, and he was trying to explain all the different scenarios of, okay, we win this, and it's by this amount of points, and and he had it all figured out, as all coaches do. So you're kind of in that coaching realm too of knowledge of, okay, this is what takes place. And this is really the fun part of high school football, because when there are teams and districts that are very close. And I'll talk a little bit about briefly where MacArthur, where the team that I follow, and you follow the Guthrie Blue Jays. And so we kind of know each other from a distance on the 5A realm. But, here we are in week 10, and we already have a district champion solidified, but there could be, and because you play these games, a three-way tie for second, third, and fourth. So it goes back to my old adage of what I've always said. Coaches are, make sure, and they tell their players, and we inform the parents that we're going to try to get our win first and foremost on a Friday night. And then we're going to try to get our 15 maximum points. So there'll be games you'll say, man, they're up by, 8, 10 points. What are they trying to do to score? And you say, well, this is why, because when you get in a three-way tie such as this, it comes down to district points. So we're going to have some of these scenarios I'm sure you're going to bring us to that if and but will actually apply. I know that Dandy Don said it didn't in Monday Night Football. If, ands, and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. But this is the if scenarios, and so we'll start with that. Well, first off, are you ready for week 10? I mean, not really ready to close out the season, but, here it is, playoffs.
It goes by so fast. We talked about that. We just gear up in the summertime. Of course, now at football season's almost a full year calendar thing when you throw in 7-on-7 and in spring drills and summer drills. It's almost a full thing now here in Oklahoma. But it goes by so fast. I remember just talking about week 0 games and how will be full schedule of games in the following week. But it really goes by fast. And you have your non-district games, which are teams that you don't see a whole lot. Especially this year, new teams. This is the first year in a long time I've seen a lot. This team against this team. That's the first ever meeting, which I think is really, really cool to see that. I know Guthrie, Lawton are playing this week, Lawton High, and that's gonna be the first time these two teams have ever played. Guthrie knows all about Lawton MacArthur and has been introduced to Lawton Ike over the last couple of years, but this will be the first meeting, which is cool. I like seeing different teams, different matchups. I like seeing teams playing up a class and down a class against good teams, and so you get that district, and then with the district play, you have, like in 5A2, Guthrie and Carlsbad have been there the entire time, but everybody else was new to the district, Altus and John Marshall and Noble over the last couple of years. And then 5A1, Newcastle comes up from 4A, and then you join MacArthur and Midwest City, and McGinnis moves over from 5A2 to 5A1. So that was a fun district, as we'll talk about here in a little bit, how fun it is. So it's been a fun season. Oklahoma over the last couple of years, 2-3 years, has really been heavy on some of the bigger players as far as Division I talent. A lot of Division II talent every single year, but it seems like the Division I talent, it has been ticked up a notch or two over the last couple of seasons. So it's been a fun regular season. I know I can't wait till the playoffs get here, but this is where it can really slow down. We can really savor it. And having shows like this really helps as well to maybe slow things down, although we're going to be looking ahead possibly for next week. But it's been a fun, rewarding season, I think, for high school football.
Yeah, and some seniors will have senior nights on their home games. Some
Yeah.
have already took place because they're on the road, and so you're going to have that as you host, and MacArthur is going to have the same thing, and so it's really it's been since the shakeup, and I'll go back to that. And you say, really the makeup of all of this, everybody's turned out really well. I mean, as far as adjusting to a new format of your district, maybe going up a class, like Eisenhower had to go up, Lawton High had to come down, Newcastle went up, Elgin went down, and I'm just talking about our schools in the network with our 13 schools that we have. So coaches ran with it, and then MacArthur or in that 5A1 district, they had to take care of a guyman, that's going to go independent. And so it let one less regular season district game unavailable, and coaches got very creative. In fact, Midwest City grabbed a game out of the blue just to make sure that they could have 10 games because it was important. All the coaches agreed, you got a bye week anyway if you're a 0-week game, and then you add the fact that you have one less in your district. What do you do? Well, and who do you pick up? And so teams were able to do that. And even though Midwest City was very strangely enough had their bye week last week in week 9, I thought that was kind of strange because most of them like to have it right before you start district or kind of the meat of stuff, but right at the end, and so that kind of ended that. Okay, so I think scenarios is what we're all talking about. That's where we're going to promote. So we'll talk on the top side. I guess we'll really highlight the ones that really have. It's really easy to say, okay, these are solidified. This is 1, 2, 3s, 4s, but then there are some interesting things. So we'll start on the top side of 6A1.
Yeah, well, Bixby 6-0 in district play. They have not clinched that playoff spot yet. I think they'll get there. Norman is at Bixby this week, which is a big game. Norman has played really, really well this year. We'll see how they go against the East Side School in Bixby. Obviously, Bixby favorite there. Jinx is at Edmond North, and Jinx will we can almost safely say they'll win that game. So it looks like Jinx will get that second spot there. You would certainly think Norman or Bixby would be the favorite there. So Bixby and Jinx looking to get those victories to secure first round buys in 6A1 football. Owasso, they have secured their district title. They are district champions. They are there. And then this week, Union against Edmond Memorial will decide a district championship and a first round bye as well. So still some moving parts in 6A1 football. Who knows going to win between Union and Edmond Memorial? That's a top game this week to check out. But there's not that one marquee thing that is etched in stone. I think Mustang will probably go on the road to either Memorial or Union, whoever loses that game. You could have like a Moore against Norman North and Edmond Santa Fe. So Norman North has 2 victories and Edmond Santa Fe has 1 victory. And somebody's going to make the playoffs in that one there. So Edmond North and Enid, they are eliminated. UConn, they are eliminated. There's going to be one team playing for a playoff spot in 6A football. But there are some 2-7 teams that, well, what are they doing in the playoffs? Well, because remember, 6 of the 8 teams in each district qualify for the playoffs.
Right. Well, and that's the difference. I mean, you say, man, with a record like that, well, because they split in just educational purposes. Most, our classes are 32 in a class size, and then you take 16, you take half of them, and then you're off to the races. Well, when you've already split the 32 to 16, then what do you do to try to, make that, and you get a couple of buys? But I think they've really done a good job with that. But, that's 6A1. What about 6A2?
Hey, real quick in 6A1, Norman North, they're 2-7. They're 2-7 overall, and they can finish 4th with a victory over Edmond Santa Fe, who's 1-8 on the year. So, but Norman North and Santa Fe are playing pretty good football.
Yeah. And so you have something to play for in that final week, as opposed to getting ready for basketball season. You lay it on the line and try to get an extra week of football.
Yeah, absolutely. 6A2, very interesting here. Choctaw Muskogee. I think we'll get first round playoff, a first round bye. I think Stillwater and Sand Springs has the inside track to do that. They have not solidified those spots quite yet. Pump City at Piedmont will be a big game to decide who goes where. Stillwater is at Southmore. You certainly think Stillwater would get the victory there. And then Lawton Ike is at US Grant. Certainly think Lawton Ike would get that victory there as well. So Pump City, they can finish third. I think Choctaw will get that first spot. I think Sand Springs will get that second spot. And then that puts Pump City potentially at that 3 spot. Southmore, they can finish 4th. Piedmont can finish up there. Lawton Ike, I think a 5th or 6th spot. So you can have like Lawton Ike maybe going to Sapulpa, or maybe a PC North. Both those PC North and Sapulpa played each other, and North won that game 7-3. So you're Lawton Ike, you're in the playoffs. It's just who you're going to play, and who knows on the first round playoff game. Got to go on the road if you're Ike, but hey, you have a fighting chance in the playoff. Coach Javon Harris makes the move up to 6A2. Like if they stay down in 5A, how good would they be? But that's the hand they were dealt with there in 6A2. But Bartlesville, they got just a couple of victories this year, but they'll be in the playoffs. I think Northwest Classen and US Grant are the guaranteed teams that are not in the playoffs. Putnam City West, they're 2-7. They take on Ponca City, who's 2-7. One of those teams is going to be in the playoffs. I think Capitol Hill is also the other team that's not going to be in the playoffs. But there's not that for sure matchup in the first round yet. But 6A2, top heavy with Muskogee, Choctaw, Stillwater, Sand Springs. But I think there's going to be some intriguing matchups, like Lawton Ike being an example, whoever they play. It's not just going to be a gimme game for Sapulpa or PC North. Oh, by the way, PC North. PC North, don't write them off yet. They go to Muskogee. Muskogee be heavy favorite, but PC North can still win the district title. Muskogee has not wrapped that up quite yet. So, but if you play the odds, Muskogee would be a favorite there.
Well, talking with Coach Javon Harris of Eisenhower at our coaches show, it's his 3rd year. They never made the playoffs. They were in Class 5A before, and so they were on the outside looking in and, playing some decent ball, getting some players back because they had some injuries. Injury hit them and trying to figure things out. They've got a fortunate game to kind of close out with US Grant at Spiegel Stadium. They'll do that on Friday and then get ready to see who they're going to play. But, the kids have really bought into not giving up. Even if the Choctaw game was really out of hand and they were still playing hard. One of our highlights came from a play that was, shouldn't have happened because they were triple teaming Sari Sheridan, basically, one of their standout wide receivers. And he got one because they didn't quit. So you got to heads off to their effort and knowing that, and the kids are pumped. I mean, if you were a senior and they have not made the playoffs in 3 years to say, and that's why I think this 6A split works. I think you give these kids more avenue to try to play and compete as opposed to, it's Bixby and Jinx and Union and everybody else can just forget about it. Well, that's why I was a fan of even the lower classes splitting too, where it was top heavy. So I think hats off to the OSSAA for making those decisions. And of course, who doesn't want another championship? I know it makes more work for you and your crew, but, to have a couple more new added state championship games, but, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I am too. And I think there's another scenario that maybe the OSSA and the Oklahoma Football Coaches Association can take a look at. And that I'm talking, trying to have a level playing field. I don't think a lot of people get excited when Bixby wins 6 state championships in a row, or Carl Albert wins 5 state championships out of 7 seasons. On the other side of it, teams like US Grant and Capitol Hill, Northwest Classen, they're getting Western Heights, they're getting 20, 25 players. I'd like for a scenario where it plays out where maybe US Grant and Capitol Hill make their way down eventually to 5A. And if they don't succeed there, make their way down to 4A, down to 3A, wherever they find their spot. Remember, John Marshall a few years back won the Class 3A state championship. So maybe they belong in 3A where they have more kids competing. And maybe on the other side of that, you might have Carl Albert up in 6A2, and they can compete with Muskogee and Choctaw. They've proven that over the years, and they beat Stillwater this year, shut them out this year. So there are scenarios where I think it can be a level playing field, because we always look at Bixby and Jinx and all these Carl Alberts, but we never look at the level field of Western Heights and US Grant and Crooked Oak, maybe moving their way down a class where they're competitive. Level playing field.
Well, and
That's
I
another day.
suggested, and I guess they did this for a couple of years, and a coach had to tell me because I was talking about, well, why don't maybe all the inner city schools, like as you mentioned, Northwest Class and SAS, US Grant, maybe they all put them in the same district? Because I was thinking, maybe a solution, kind of what you were proposing there. And they said they tried that, and it really didn't work because I mean, you could get some of the schools in Tulsa, some in the Oklahoma City area, maybe a Guyman, and you throw them all together and make one district and have a state champion or a district champion out of that, something to compete for. But I like your idea of trying to, if you can, if they're going to be solidified like that, because everybody just had to wait for Bixby to grow up in numbers to get from 6A2 where they were just dominant. And okay, well, now you're in the big boy section in 6A1. And that kind of, after a couple of years kind of levels out to kind of, okay, well, they can be beaten, there's the competition there. So yeah, I think it's something interesting to look into. Of course, we're on the outside looking in. We're not a coach and we're not on the associations, but we're podcasters that can throw that out, and ideas can go up the flagpole. And like I preached for not that I was the cause of the split, but I said that was probably the best solution I saw, because, as I said before, you aren't going to make a 3-school like the Putnam Cities, Edmonds, Normans, to say, okay, well, you just need to, form one big sports team, athletic team, so you can compete. That would not be fair to, dissolve all those programs, histories, and traditions. And just like it wouldn't be fair for you to say an East Side school, okay, well, you've got enough to divide. Well, you need to have 3 sports programs out of your one school, And so that wasn't going to happen. So I thought logistically that was the best decision. So, and it looks like it's worked.
And just to back the point up, we're doing it right now with the private schools. If they're successful, they get bumped up a class. I mean, so that formula is already there. We've seen it with our own eyes this year, Eric, that Tuttle, Blanchard, Elgin, Bethany, they can compete with 5A schools if, whatever the formula, magic formula is to get bumped up or bumped down. I don't know that formula off of success, but Washington, Lincoln Christian's won, I think, almost 80 straight district games in a row. I think if they played up a class, they would be okay. But, it's just a level playing field, I think, is what the OSA would want to try to strive for. So again, we always talk about the upper schools. I think it would work. And there's some schools that would not like it, but I guarantee you they wouldn't like coaching at Western Heights, where they have a coach every single year.
Yeah, that's true. And when Oklahoma went into the SEC, that's what the formula was to get that schedule. They said, well, why is Oklahoma playing who they are playing versus Texas? Well, they went back a decade and say, okay, this is how well you've done. And, they didn't know about injuries or anything else that was going to happen to Oklahoma. But that's why the disparity between Texas's schedule and Oklahoma was just based on that track record of your past successes, And so we're going to go and lean on that. So the best you can, So
sure.
That's good. Okay, so now we go into the fun part of where you and I kind of live on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah.
It's 5A, and so I know what I know for 5A, and you can do the 5A2 and 3 and 4 scenario. 5A1 is already won by Newcastle in the district. They are district champions. So it's now second, third, and fourth. A race between MacArthur cannot get fourth. They will either get second or third based on a point situations. So basically, as I started out the broadcast, is that if MacArthur 4 or less, they will be a number 2. So, I mean, they could win the game outright there too. If they can lose the game 4 or less, they're still number 2 because it's a 3-way tie for second, third, and fourth, and it comes down to points. And if they're over that and the 4 mark above at 5, then they're going to go to third, and they'll be traveling to Guthrie. And locked in at 4 is already solidified. Now Midwest City could go to 3, can go to 3 if MacArthur just beats Bishop McGuinness. And I'm sure Midwest City fans are hoping for that. They don't want to play a recap game with Carl Albert because that's what you're going to end up with.
Well, I think there is a path for Duncan. Strangely enough, they would have to beat Midwest City, and I think would also need Bishop McGuinness to beat MacArthur for them to get into that spot. So there's an outside chance for that as well. The big thing, remember, Midwest City has the tiebreaker over Bishop McGuinness. They won earlier this year, 14-11. So another factor in there. So I think I certainly think I have MacArthur. I think they'll finish in that second spot. Just my projection there. Newcastle first year in there, and Noble, there's some scenarios that could keep Noble. It would have to be like the Dallas Cowboys beating somebody in this, but I think we do know for sure Noble will be on the road at Newcastle for a first round matchup. I think we also know Collinsville will be on the road at Booker T for a first round matchup as well. So 5A2 is pretty easy. Carl Albert winning the district title last week over getting the district title with the victory over Guthrie. So now we have Guthrie and Lawton playing this week inside Jellison Stadium, decide that second and third spots. And I guarantee you Guthrie does not want to go on the road to Lawton MacArthur. Lawton doesn't want to play their rival Lawton MacArthur in a potential first round matchup. So that Guthrie Lawton game would be huge. Not that Guthrie or Lawton would have an easy home playoff game. I think it would be either Midwest City or Bishop McGuinness, but you don't want to play or maybe a Lawton MacArthur at home. You don't want that scenario because it's going to be tough no matter who. That 5A1's crossover at 5A2 outside of probably Carl Albert will be a tough matchup for some, and probably Newcastle as well. But 5A1 versus 5A2 will be highly, highly competitive.
Well, you already mentioned that you thought MacArthur leaning in your projection as a second. Okay, so then now I'm going to put you on the spot. Okay, on the other side, we need a 2 and a 3. So is it Guthrie, Lawton High?
Well, now Guthrie played Carl Albert to the closest game the Titans have seen all season long, 29-0. So I don't know if that's hanging their hat on that or not. But Guthrie playing at home with the strong defense, I think.
A little bit of rain, possible rain, I guess, too, in the forecast.
A little bit of rain, but Coach Dunn, before playing the Guthrie game, he thought the Lawton running back and the Lawton quarterback were the best athletes he had seen all season long. That includes Carl Albert. I don't know what his thoughts are after the Guthrie game. There was not a whole lot of offense that from Guthrie that would be too exciting, I wouldn't think. But it will be a game that Guthrie might be a favorite at home. But it's not one that Guthrie can just show up and show them the G on their helmet and they're going to win. Coach Zoe will have them excited, pumped to play that game because a home playoff game is on the line and anything can happen. We're talking 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old kids, so anything could happen there. So it's a big game to win because you get the host. Doesn't mean you're automatically going to win your next game, first round playoff game, but you certainly want that home playoff game.
Okay, and we'll go on the other side as far as a 5A on the east side. Anything that has to happen? This team has to beat this team by X amount of points, and how does that look?
Yeah, 5A3, Booker T. Washington, they are the district champion. McAllister, they're going to finish second. So it comes down to Bishop, Kelly, and Shawnee deciding on that 3-4 spot. Kelly finishes third with a win over Durant, or a Shawnee loss against McAllister. McAllister without their coach, Forrest Mazie, for the second week. He's been suspended for reasons not given there. They had a close game with Durant last week. So we will see how that plays out. Shawnee takes on McAllister. Coach Madonna has done a great job there. So we'll see Kelly or Shawnee. I think Kelly has the inside edge right now for that 3 spot, but Shawnee's been very good this year with Coach Madonna. 5A4, Del City, the second best team in 5A football we've seen this year. They have not secured a district championship yet. They will play Pryor to decide that. You certainly think Del City would be the favorite to do that, but Pryor finishes second. Claremore, we do know, is finishing third there. And then Collinsville, if they beat Tulsa Memorial, who has not won a game this year, Collinsville will be the 4 spot. So we do know, we can almost certain for say that Claremore will be on the road at McAllister for a first round playoff game. McAllister, a team that had been in top 5 in 5A some parts of the season. Will they have their coach come back? I don't think so, but we have not seen anything on that. Then you look at Claremore, a state semifinal team last year. So how about that first round matchup there? So and I think Del City will beat Pryor. So you have either Shawnee or Bishop Kelly going to Del City for a first round matchup. And we've talked about the 5A1, 5A2 thing there, but Kelly at Pryor, Tulsa Kelly, not the greatest season that we've seen in the past, but I guarantee you Pryor is not going to be very happy seeing Bishop Kelly come into their place if the projections hold out in 5A.
Well, and Collinsville at 4, when they've been kind of up in that upper echelon, for a while. So, that's how districts fare out. That kind of wrap up.
Injuries got Collinsville a good part of the season. And if Pryor were to defeat Del City, then everybody in the Mid-Dale School District would be sad for a little bit, but then it has a path for a championship matchup, not
Yeah,
that semifinal matchup. I don't think that'll happen, but that is a path where those two top teams could meet in the finals if Del City were to be shocked this week.
Yeah. Does that wrap up kind of 5A, kind of the glimpse
I think so,
of
yeah.
If we can? Okay. So drift down to 4A, very interesting as well. I mean, some solidified favorites like Wagner and Elgin at ones. How else is it shaping for the rest of the districts?
Well, Elgin is the district champion in 4A1, Weatherford second, and Clinton's third. So that is solidified. Elk City or Bridge Creek will finish fourth. I certainly think that'll be Elk City. 4A2, how fun has this district been this year? Tuttle is the district champion. Blanchard finished second, and Bethany finishes third. Boom, boom, boom. 3 teams in the top 5. Ardmore and Tecumseh comes down to that 4th spot. Certainly think that will be Ardmore getting there. Wagner is the district champion. Miami is the runner-up. Grove is third. So we have some pretty known facts going into the 4A4. We still got Sallisaw is at 8 to decide the district championship. So you kind of look at I'm pretty sure we can put Ardmore at Elgin for a first round matchup. I think we can put Grove at either the whoever loses between 8 and Sallisaw. Grove goes on the road there. Somebody's got to go to Wagner. We do know this for sure. Clinton is at Blanchard. How about that for a first round matchup? That is solidified. That is going to happen. And also what we know is going to happen, Bethany is going to go to Weatherford. That's going to happen for sure as well. It's just those classic 2-3 matchups, kind of like what we see in 5A1 and 5A2. We have that in 4A football, but the big news, again, with Tuttle's victory over Blanchard, we have Elgin, Wagner, and Blanchard on the same side. Throw in Clinton as well. Now, Tuttle is going to have to go through Miami and Bethany. Much rather do that. So that what we thought would happen was exactly what happened in 4A football. So we have been entertained all season long in the regular season with 4A football, and we're going to be entertained in the postseason with 4A football. It's a fun class this year.
Yeah, and you know who's the most ecstatic about the change of all this is Newcastle, because Newcastle was in that district that they've always said, okay. Absolutely. And they played them as non-district games. They said, okay, Blanchard, Tuttle, Bethany, Newcastle. There's your 4. Wow. Who's going to beat who to go 1 through 4? Newcastle didn't have to worry about any of that outside of playing Tuttle and Blanchard as non-district. But they're saying, hey, we're in 5A now. And by the way, we left that very competitive district to win the district in 5A1. And we love where we're at. And I know there was some grumbling of at first when the announcement came out, when the network was looking at teams. And Newcastle, you're gonna have to play with the big boys now. You're gonna go to 5A after being in that district that you've been in 4A. So hats off to them. And yeah, what a district that is. And Bethany, one of our schools that we picked up late, they'll be excited to, even with a third, to be in the matchups that they're going to have to go to Weatherford. I think that's a very doable game for them, seeing them play against Elgin and Cash 4A opponents that I've seen, and gives them an opportunity to kind of make your way up to maybe face a Tuttle, which they've already seen, of course, in the district for a possible later down rematch. So, but that
of course,
that game was good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course,
so that wrapped up 4A. So I guess we'll go to 3A.
Yeah. The 3A, there's not one game I can just certainly say in the playoffs that this is going to happen. This is kind of like the games we just talked about in 4A football. Heritage Hall, they've won district title once again in 3A1. Plainview at Kingfisher. Kingfisher off to a slow start. Reagan Roof in his first season there for Kingfisher has them playing really good. Plainview will be a favorite in that ball game as well. Pauls Valley, North Rock Creek are battling for that final playoff spot. This is another district here that has been fun to watch all season long with the competitive. North Rock Creek did defeat Pauls Valley earlier this year in a head-to-head, so they will have that tiebreaker there. So I would be interested to see how 3A1 finishes up. 3A2, a little bit easier. Sulphur is the district champions. Perkins last week beat Bristow, so that secured them a home playoff game. Bristow finishes third. They're going to have to go on the road, but Perkins is going to have a very tough first-round matchup. Victory Christian at Seminole, they will decide that 4th spot there. Idabel, as crazy as Lincoln Christian's been so good, they have not secured a district title yet. They play Idabel. I think, obviously, Lincoln Christian will be favored there, should win that ball game, but it could be the first loss for Lincoln Christian in 80 some odd district games in a row. Holland Hall is third, Dakota's fourth. So Castro Hall, Berry Hill decide first and second in District 4. Claremore Sequoia is already third. Vinita and Jay will decide that fourth spot there. So there'll be some interesting matchups like Kingfisher, North Creek, or Paul's Valley. They're going to be on the road to Sulphur. Sulphur will be favored, but that's a still intriguing first round matchup. Perkins is going to have their hands full. Bristow is going to go to either Plainview or Kingfisher, more than likely Plainview. That's going to be a tough matchup in a first round matchup there. So, yeah, and then there's a bunch of other scenarios, way too many to get into, of who might play who in 3A football.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, is there one that just kept you up at night that, okay, this is the weirdest scenario of points and ifs and buts and all the rest of that?
Yeah, all that in 2A football. I don't know if I would be worth anything in 2A football in either division. There's so many moving parts that have not been decided there. As besides, we do know Millwood is district champion. We do know Hugo is going to be on the road at Chandler in 2A1. Washington, they have not secured their title yet, the state's longest winning streak. But again, they will. I mean, if you look into it a little bit further, Jones is going to be hosting a first round play. I think they'll be playing Lindsay first round in 2A1 football division 2. One that's interesting, I think it's 2A. Yeah, 2A1. There's going to be, I think it's going to be Perry on the outside. Perry's been in the top 10 in 2A1, but we know Millwood and Jones are the 1-2 spot. Then Perry, Chisholm, and Oklahoma Christian School are fighting. There's 2 spots in 3 teams. So one pretty good team will not make the playoffs in 2A1. That's probably the big story this week when you look at 2A football. There's some other scenarios in other districts on the east side, but that's the big one. Perry, Chisholm, or OCS is not making the playoffs.
Wow. And the scoreboard watching for coaches, a lot of what you've said has transpired. Okay, this will decide that some of these teams are playing against each other pretty clear-cut ways. But, those mention of possible 3-way ties and district points, that's where it gets a little sketchy. And that's why, scoreboard watching is always important. They kind of know all the scenarios to kind of set up where they at. Okay.
That makes because we're going over these and we're saying, well, they're going to win, and then they don't win. Like, wow, that really blows it up and makes it even more exciting for folks like us. I don't think coaches will sleep well, but it's fun for us.
I think we made it all the way down to what your numbers are. You said don't get too much involved in A, and I will just mention one of our schools because we had them on as our coaches show with Walters. They only have 1 loss in the season, and they play Wynnewood as the last closeout game at home. They're really excited, but he said, it's really interesting that we're 8-1, and here's an opportunity that, okay, wow, you've done a lot of great stuff. You probably won your district, right? No, that hasn't been solidified yet. There was Minko throws a little, a little monkey wrench in there by defeating a team that only one that beat Walters. And so Walters could be playing first, second, third, or even fourth, with 1 loss. And you and I talked about this before we went on air, is this happened to MacArthur one year against your district. I think all 3 of those teams were 9-1. Think, wow, that's really doing something. A 3-way tie. And I think Guthrie ended up third, had to go up on the road to MacArthur, and you ended up winning that game. But with only 1 loss and be a 3rd place finisher, that's insane.
Well, that's crazy. And you're talking about District A2 with these records finishing. You have Christian Heritage 6-3, Walters 8-1, Wynnewood 8-1, and Minko 6-3 with all district. And you're fighting for that district spot. But if you finish 3rd, you're on the road to Fairview, who has won 2 straight state championship. And if you finish 4th, you go to Hooker. Not only are they a good football team, but they're the way the heck up there. So these games are huge in A2. This is a fun district to watch.
It is.
All right. Well, that's all I can say.
That's right. Does that conclude all of your number crunching up to this point?
I think I've confused myself so much right now. I think I better call.
No, that's right. No, I love that. I appreciate that. And I appreciate your expertise on this so we could kind of share it with those who are joining on my podcast. One more little plug from the Guthrie News Page. You also have a little huddle program that you can talk all about this same thing, and you can join in with that. And how can we find you there?
Yeah, appreciate that. High School Huddle, Ronnie Phillips and Phil Nichols join me here at this broadcast in the studio, and we talk basically what you and I do, Eric, here on your platform. And We have a fun interactive show. Folks can say, Chris, you're an idiot. I don't think Elgin should be here. I think they should be here. You can. And so we talk back and forth on that from 6A all the way down to Class A. We have fun with it. We have our top 10 games of the week. We pick those. Ronnie looks like he's going to win. It looks like I'm going to finish third out of 3 people, but nonetheless, you can mock me on that. And it's just a fun show. It's a fun show. 6 o'clock Wednesday nights throughout the football season on our YouTube channel, which is Second Banana Media. If you're on the Facebook platform, you can just search High School Huddle. We're there. We stream them live on both platforms.
Okay, well, you've made our point afters very, very interesting in football because we love it. We love talking about it. We love sharing all the stuff we've got, and I'm just so glad you're the numbers guy. I love those stat guys that always have the stuff right there next to you just in case you needed it. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's fun.
All right,
it's
Chris
fun.
Evans from the Guthrie News Page. Good luck with hosting the Lawton High Wolverines for the first time, and MacArthur Highlanders on senior night. There will be a surprise unveiled. I can't mention it now because they're keeping it under wraps. So, stay tuned about the MacArthur game against Bishop McGinnis. Yeah. So, and that will be on senior night. And
got rain in the forecast. So it's not only going to make tough games to win district or make the playoffs. Got to battle with the rain as well.
Yeah, that's a part of football finally in fall. It's been hot all ever since. And it's just going to be that one last rainy opportunity. Okay, episode 15 of the Point After live from the Cameron studios here in our podcast studios at Cameron University, and you've been watching a presentation of the Oklahoma Sports Network.